Hey everybody, it's Tim Hepworth here with Fly Fishing Boat Outfitters and Thursday Night Live Fly Tying, and I'm here to bring you another quick tie. Tonight we are working on Season 4, Episode 10. Okay, what we're going to be tying up tonight is the Pearl Zonker. Looks something like this guy. What I want you to do is, if you are watching along and you're part of the replay squad, let us know you're here. Like and subscribe. Click that little bell sign there so you know when you have another new video coming up, so it can reach you. Okay, but we love to know that you're here. I'm going to head on over to our kits. Okay, so if you've got your kit, go ahead and open it up. If you don't have one of these Season 4 kits of ours, you can still get one. So head on over to www.flyfishingboatriver.com/TNLS4 and you can still grab yours today. All right, let's go ahead over to the vise and see what we're going to get up to. So tonight for thread, I'm going to be using a UTC 140 in black. I do want something a little bit heavier as we're working with a couple of different materials than we've probably ever worked with before. We're working with this mylar, which is a little bit unique to this fly. This is what our pattern is going to end up looking like in the end. Okay, it's got the underside is mylar, so we're going to teach you how to work with that stuff. First off, though, in your kit, you've got a little bit of lead wire. If you want to add some weight to this fly, very simple way to do it is we're just going to go like this. We're going to stick a few wraps right in the center of this hook shank. As many as you want or as little as you want. Doesn't really matter. We'll leave this somewhere right about there. You can go in there and trim it out or helicopter it off. That's just some lead wraps. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to prepare this funny mylar. Okay, so what this is it's got a little bit of rope on the inside. So we're going to go ahead, grab that rope and pull it out. Now you got to be careful with this stuff because if it starts to unravel on you, it really unravels on you and it's gone in a hurry. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside just for a moment. I'm going to go ahead and grab my thread. I'm actually going to start my thread right here. I'm just going to get my lead wraps secured, and once those are secured, I'm going to head to the rear of the fly. So once I got those where I want, I'm going to do some nice open wraps up over and top of them, then secure in front where I want them not to move, and then I just go back and forth. I'm just going to use this to really bind it down, make sure it's in a good spot, kind of covered up, doesn't matter if there's some color coming through. Okay, and I'm going to take my thread all the way to the back, and I want this to be right at the back of the hook shank before it takes a little bend and heads south, okay? Now I'm going to head on over to this mylar. It's going to be the first time we kind of work with this stuff. And I want to, this one, because already a little unraveled at the end, which is perfect. That's what I want, because this is basically going to be a little bit of an undertail, a flash that's going to stick out. So I'm going to go ahead and get that started right over the eye of the hook. I'm just going to kind of lightly push it back. And I'm going to get my thread so that it kind of weaves in through those little pieces that are sticking out. Might have to unravel it just a little bit more. But once it's like that, I'm happy with it. I'm going to kind of grab it with this opposing hand, and I'm going to take a nice thread wrap, and I'm going to pull tight. This is why I'm using 140, because I want to be able to pull a little bit more tension on it than I might do normally. And as you can see, that tail comes out, and it's looking good already. Okay, take a few more thread wraps to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here with some UV resin, and I'm going to touch those wraps, because I do not want this to go anywhere, because I'm going to be adding in another material here shortly. I'm going to grab my light, torch that, so I know it's not going to move anywhere now, and it's not going to twist or roll on there because I put a lot of tension in those wraps. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim my thread out, because I put that UV resin, so I know it's not going to go anywhere. Like so. Just going to set that aside for a moment. I'm going to head on over to this material here, just to work with it. So we got some rabbit zonker is what we're going to use for the top of this fly. Okay. Now, the reason I cut this off is because I can give you opportunity if you want to. You can switch over to some red thread. So if you're going to use red thread in the original pattern, it just leaves that little bit at the back showing through as being red thread. I'm not going to do that tonight. I'm just going to go back with my same thread, but this is where we would switch over and get on a different color thread if we wanted. So now that I've got my rabbit zonker kind of prepped, I don't have to cut it to length yet. I'm just going to have this long piece of it. I would go back, grab that thread. If it's red or not, doesn't matter. We're going to secure this down right in the same place. A couple more thread wraps. And now I'm going to prep this zonker to go on right here. Now, I want to imagine this tail being roughly a hook length out the back of the fly. So that's why I'm kind of separating. You can see on the leather, I pulled it apart. Okay, so I've got just that tail piece pulled out. Let me see how long that is. Yeah, that's basically exactly the hook shank in length. I'm going to set that up here, and it does help if you moisten your fingers just to separate the hair on that piece of leather. And then I'm going to come through. I'm going to take a couple thread wraps. Now this is going to probably want to wrap around on us a little bit. Make sure it stays right up on top of the hook. Take as many wraps as you think it takes to get that secure. Pull tight, make sure it's not going anywhere. I've got my tail out the back. I like the way that looks. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to come in here with some UV resin. I'm not even going to whip finish this. I'm just going to put some resin right on those wraps. On the underside. I'm going to cure it. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to trim that thread out, and we're going to get it out of the way one more time. And we're going to move up to the front of the fly. Okay, set that aside. Now I know that's not going anywhere because I put all that resin on there. So I can trim out my thread confidently, know it's not going anywhere. And now I'm actually going to take this and just get it out of the way. So that's got a little hair clip. I'm going to put it on there to keep it back. Now I'm going to tug this forward just a little bit, and I'm going to actually trim this out in front of the eye. Just a little ways. Like so. So that if I'm going to pull this back a little bit, I got a little bit of reach and I can get my thread on that eye there, okay? That's what I'm going to do to start with now here. I'm going to take my thread. I'm going to kind of pull that back just a smidge. Get my thread started. Trim this out. And now what I'm going to do, now that my thread's in there, is I'm going to secure this mylar in the front. I don't really want to pull it back or pull it forward too much because it's actually thinning it, makes it look thinner, whereas if I push it back, it kind of plumps up the body a bit. I just kind of want it to let it sit as its natural state, not under tension. So I'm going to go like so. I'm going to actually just do a little clockwise spin because I'm left-handed, counterclockwise if you're right-handed, to get a good circling wrap. And then what I want to do before I do anything else is I want to just kind of make sure that body looks semi-even. It is going to move around, so it's not a big deal as far as the shape itself. It's going to kind of billow and go back down. But I don't want it to look super oblong in any way. I like the way that looks. It looks pretty even. So I'm going to take a few more thread wraps. And then I'm going to come in here with my scissors and just trim out all those little tags. Kind of the best that I can. Secure down to the eye. And we're kind of prepping ourselves for this little bit of a taper we're going to have down to the eye. So at this point, I'm going to have brought my thread back about a full eye length behind the eye, and I'm going to leave it right there for now. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab this nice red saddle hackle, okay? And we're going to prep this to go in. This is going to look like the gills of our fly. So I'm going to grab here right where all that fluff starts, and I'm going to pull that down, and I'm going to strip it right off the stem and get it out. We're going to tie this in, not from the tip, but from the back end of this saddle hackle, so we get those nice long portions of the feather right here, okay? So I'm going to stroke those forward for the moment. I'll trim off a little bit of that stem, and then I'm going to tie this in. So I want the underside of that feather. You can see the underside there, the shiny side out, dull side underneath. I want that to point towards the rear of the fly, okay? Take a couple more thread wraps here, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to tie it in right on top. A couple wraps right over top of it, wraps behind it, wraps on top of it, and I'm going to secure that butt actually down towards the eye before I trim it out, because I do not want that to go anywhere. This has to be as secure as possible. Okay, now I'm going to kind of leave my thread up near the eye. I'm going to do a little half hitch, save my work. Okay, pull that tight, get it out of the way. And now I'm going to start wrapping this feather to create that gill appearance. Okay, so as I go, I want to keep kind of moisten my fingers, stroke those fibers from the feather rearward. Okay, and I'm going to make a nice collar here. It's great practice for working on our collars. This is a nice big version of one versus what we do sometimes on smaller flies. Don't worry if those fibers stand up, because we're going to put some thread wraps over them and lean them back a little bit. So now that I've done about 3-4 turns, I'm there going to secure that feather so it can't go anywhere. Make sure it's good and secure. That always means threads behind, threads in front. And then once I do that, I'm going to take a couple thread wraps back up and over that material, pulling everything rearward. We're working on that nice tapered head again. And now we have all that kind of pointing rearward. I'm going to go ahead and trim out that little piece of tag I had left. And we're almost there, guys. That collar looks really nice. You can see it looks even all the way around the fly. There's no real dead space anywhere. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reintroduce this zonker. Okay, I'm going to try to take and push those down into the bottom, because as you can imagine, the top of this fly is going to have the rabbit zonker on it. So there's no point in wasting that material where it's not going to be seen. So now what I want to do is pick a spot right by the eye. So I'm again going to kind of moisten my fingers a bit, try to separate. Sometimes it helps to go in there with a bodkin and try to separate it out so you can clear a nice little path. I like where that is. The problem with not clearing that is if I left all that material back on there, it's going to look like a really poofy looking head on this fly, and that's not the appearance that I'm trying to go with on this pattern. Okay, now I'm going to take a wrap right there, secure that right on top, another couple, make sure it's good and secure, wrap underneath, and then I'm good to trim out that leather of that zonker, and then we'll finish off this head. So like so. Now I'm going to take some thread wraps, and I'm going to try to make this nice tapered head right down to the eye. Just trying to basically do enough to cover up my work with this black thread. So I got that nice black colored head on it. You can see my nice gill plates hanging down. Really good zonker up top. I like where this is sitting, so I'm going to go ahead and whip finish this here. If I can find my whip finish tool, it's always escaping me. That's all right. What I'll do here is I'll do a half hitch while I look for it. There we go. There it is. I'm going to come in here, whip finish this fly. I'm not going to get too crazy about it because I am going to put a bunch more resin up here. Trim that out. Get that out of the way. And now I'm going to go back to that nice bone dry solar res that I've got here. And I'm going to touch up all the way around the head on those thread wraps. Gives it a nice sheen, a nice little shiny head to it. Cure that. And any of those little errant fibers that are in the way that I don't like, I'm going to go in with my cautery tool, or you could go in with some scissors, and I'm going to get rid of them. It's a little bit easier once you've cured that head because now they're stuck right where you can get at them. They're not going to move on you. If you don't have one of these tool guys, I recommend you trying one. They are pretty awesome. All right, guys, there you have it. That is the Pearl Zonker fly. That is an old classic style of tying these flies, but I guarantee you they will work every time. Add whatever weight you want to them and change up those colors. Try a bunch of different things. All right, guys, it's been another quick tie. Can't believe it's already episode 10 of season 4. But here, we're going to leave you with this one. Until next time, don't forget to like and subscribe. Again, my name's Tim Hepworth. We'll see you next time.